So where do you want him talking to?
Have him talking to Dre, I guess, or no, right? Or yeah. Well, he needs to face that way. So.
Well, yeah, you would be looking this way when you're.
Yeah, he'll be looking that way. Yeah.
So I got a question for you. We were talking about the relationship and the honesty that you give this man right here.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like when you talk to DeAndre, you're coming from a place of somebody that did that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How important is that honesty to you that you give to him?
Honesty's big because the sport that he's doing, again, like you said, there's people in there that it's not a hobby. It's a lifestyle. Boxing, you can't play boxing. You can play basketball, you can play football, you can play soccer. You can't play boxing. Boxing's a sport to where you can get hurt bad. So for me, looking at Andre, he's like a little brother to me. I got a little brother that box. Him and my little brother, they box together. So when I see him, boxing, when I see him training, when I see he's not at the gym, those are things that let me step back, because when I was younger, Jordan's dad, he was on my ass. I'm talking about on my ass. 5 a.m., he was like, Cordell, we gotta go run. He's at my door 5 a.m. every day before I gotta go to school. Up and running, every day. And I knew I can fight, but he seen something else. He's like, if we just get you here, I see the mountain. Right now, you just see the hill. And his dad, pushed me every day. As much as I hated running, I didn't like running at all. I'd do anything but run. I'd go hide. I got homework. I'll skip. I'll try to do anything but run. But after a while, his dad pushed me. He's like, if you run, he said, the way you fight now, if you were in shape, you'll be able to fight like that for 3 rounds or 4 rounds or whatever the case may be. So with that, him coming picking me up, showing that, he cared. It wasn't just, it's one thing when you have coaches that, or trainers, or people in your lives that, I see you at the gym, but after that I don't talk to you until I see you the next day. But it's like he said, it was constant boxing. Hey, Cordell, where you at? And that's something I think a lot of youngsters, and even Andre, that if they would have had that, coming up, they'd be a lot further in their career than where they're at.
What I hear is respect. Like, you respect what somebody gave you.
Yes.
Right? And you respect what you have to give to DeAndre.
Yes, absolutely. Because Andre is probably one of the most natural talented. I'd say he's the athlete, because Andre can play football, Andre can play basketball, Andre can box. And what I see in Andre, I want Andre to be able to see in himself. So again, that's why I call him. That's why when he ain't in the gym, if he don't answer his phone, I'm calling his wife. Where's Andre at? I just want, I want to see him succeed. It's great, to be able to, give back and show, and teach and be able to help. For me, it's not about money. It's not about, what I gain out of this is seeing Andre make it. That's what I love about it. That's what I like about it.
In a sense, though, you're giving more than just advice to somebody.
Yes.
You're helping him in his whole life. Like, every time that you help him move his career forward, you help his kids, you help his wife, you help those around him, his support system. So you're touching the lives of a lot of people when you do that.
We, you know, we have to be, because you know there's a couple. You know, somebody told me all we have is us. You know, so we got to be able to push, you know, each other to make it. You know, somebody gave me the opportunity to be where I'm at in life, so I want to be able to push, you know, somebody else to make it to where they need to in life. You know, there's a lot of, you know, not to get real deep, but there's a lot of communities to where, and you know, and I say black communities, to where we don't help each other. You know, we talk bad about one another, and we don't take the knowledge that we have to give it to somebody else, for somebody else to grow, to push somebody else, you know, so they can get to where they need to be. You know, so like Mark, I've been knowing Mark, you know, for a long time. Mark painted shoes, Mark sold clothes, Mark, you know, did everything, you know. But you know, now he has his shop, you know, and he's, you know, trying to give back, teaching young barbers how to cut, teaching, you know, people how to start their business. You know, so it's things like that for me. Is why, you know, I kind of do what I do with, you know, with boxing, because I want to see people grow. I want to see them, you know, touch on levels of things that we haven't in a long time. We haven't had a belt come back to Washington in a very long time, since Emmett. Emmett was the last person that brought back a world title.
You know, the way this conversation has gone with everybody, I get a sense that there's been more discussion about the mind of a fighter than the physical ability of a fighter, right? Like when you're stepping in that ring, how important is the mind as far as winning that fight?
Your mind is I look at, like, I take it like this, because you can take somebody that's big like Mike Tyson, and you can take somebody that's small like Floyd. Floyd isn't the biggest fighter. He isn't the hardest punching fighter, but he's a smart fighter. So if you have a weak mind, it doesn't matter how big you are, doesn't matter how strong you are. You can get broke down. You can get beat because of that mind. You know, you gotta have a strong mind to keep you from your distractions, to keep you to stay in focus. You know, that mind's important. Having that strong mind is key. Because I don't care how good you are. If your mind's weak, that means I can break you.
There's a big difference between humility and humiliation. When I was young, I thought humility meant humiliation, right? One of my teachers had me look it up in the dictionary, and it said humility was seeing yourself as you are. How important is it for a fighter to see themselves as they are? The good things that they can build on, and then the bad things, like maybe arrogance, that might creep in.
There's a couple things like coaching and boxing. In a sport like this, once you quit learning, that means you're done. You know, it's almost like life. Once you quit learning in life, it means you're done. You know, so with being a boxer, it's like going to school. You gotta constantly learn. Pick up new things, pick up new tricks. Whether it's, you know, trying to take care of your body. You know, how do I go 10 rounds and go back and recoup and train my body, get my body back in shape, take care of my body from all the bruises and punches I've gotten, you know, from that time. So you're always learning. You know, it's life. I'm a firm believer. Once you quit learning, it's done. Give it up.
Dude, I'm glad you got in front of the camera, Cordell.
Thank God, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that was most interesting to me about what you said earlier when we did the first interview was East Coast thinking as far as the world of boxing compared to West Coast thinking. I don't know how it is with the boxing world. With football world, right, those teams get all the attention because that's where all the news things are, right, on the East Coast. All the news programs start throwing that stuff in the media, people forget about the Seahawks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I kind of heard some of that with Tacoma and West Coast. So when it comes to East Coast, what is the difference between that fighting style? I think you mentioned how they have more fights, right? What is the difference between an East Coast fighter and a West Coast fighter?
Well, it's your major cities, and you kind of look at some of the poverty levels on the East Coast. It's a lot worse on the East Coast than it is on the West Coast. So there's a lot of gyms out there, on the East Coast in the big major cities for kids. That's all they do is fight. That's all they do is fight. Like it's kind of funny when people say, "Well, you guys live in the ghetto." For me, there's no ghetto here. I don't see a ghetto here. We have it. As grown up as kids, yes, we lived in a rough neighborhood, but we were blessed compared when you going to the East Coast or going to the South or to the Midwest. We didn't have to grow up like that. So our mindsets are a little different. They do it as a way of living. We do it as a hobby. So for us we got to get these guys out of the hobby mindset and try to transform it to where this is what they do. They do this because they have to. We do this because we like to. Again, it's like playing sports.
How do you get to that point where you get to that mindset that they have?
It takes a lot. It takes a good corner. Again, his dad. I just love to fight growing up. It didn't matter. Whether it was in the ring, outside the ring. I just like to fight. So, and I didn't like a lot of people. So for me it was easy. I didn't hang out with a lot of people. I knew a lot of people because of boxing, but I didn't like a lot of people. I'm just gonna tell you, I don't like nobody.
So you mentioned the poverty sometimes that happens. If somebody's growing up in this area and they don't have a lot of money, can they get into boxing?
Absolutely. Boxing it's an easy sport to get into. You don't have I didn't grow up with a lot of money. My first fight, we used to talk about you should never lose to a boy in tennis shoes. My first fight, I fought in some tennis shoes. And I beat the brakes off the boy in the boxing shoes. That's just the way it was. If you wanted to box, there was a gym. It's for me. It was a place. If I did not box, my life probably been a lot different. Just because of I like to fight, my temper. That would have just led me more into the streets.
That was the same conversation Dez had when he told me his story, right? Mm-hmm. Like he was taking him to a bad place, and he found some balance inside of the ring. And what I noticed talking to him, right, the whole experience of becoming a fighter changed the way that he thought for the rest of his life. And I hear that when I hear you talk, mm-hmm. right? Your thinking has changed. What would you say to a young Cordell just coming in? Maybe one of these kids in Tacoma is just coming in to the ring now. What would you give as far as advice?
Work hard. Work hard, and take every opportunity that's given to you. It's because some of them they only come once, so you gotta cherish that moment and take it. Got to. I tell this young man that all the time, because opportunities, they don't come often. So when you got them, you gotta take them and go.
That's fantastic, man.
So.
I when I hear boxing, like as somebody that never watched it, I think of nothing like what we've been talking about. Because you've been talking about belief, you've been talking about respect, you've been talking about loving the people in your circle, right? You've been talking about lifting people up, knowledge, all this stuff, dude. That's big. There's a lot more than just what happens in that ring.
It is. That it is. You know, we I say for the most part, me, Jay, then we had a good upbringing. You know, when it came to the ring, to the boxing ring, we had a good support system. We may not like our support system at the time, just because of the way that they went about things. But looking back, we had a good support system. I wouldn't change it. Wouldn't change it for anything. It kind of made me into the person I am today. So and I'd probably say the same thing. For Jordan. Andre. Our boxing team was a tight knit family. The gym was like your second home. You spent just as much time at the gym as you did at home sometimes. So it was just like leaving one house to another house.
Did you have a nickname when you used to fight?
No.
No?
No.
All right.
No.
I'm done. I don't have no questions.
I got nicknames growing up, but I ain't not when I fought.
Okay.
I was I don't know. I just love the sport. Just love to fight. Just love to fight.
I'm done. I got nothing.
That's it. It's a wrap.
Good.